We have our audience on board. Slow as all hell. We stream into Twitch and YouTube, and we're doing the show Hot Topics, Cool Heads. So we're covering a couple good topics that have been in the news for the past couple weeks. And now that the Freedom Convoy has kind of come to an end, we just wanted to get some opinions from Twitch streamers that have interesting opinions, that are chill folk. And it's going to be super cool. It's going to be super fun. Yeah, I'm just going to make sure that everything is going good. All right. So my name is Be Weird. I'm a Twitch streamer, and I'm here as the host, as kind of like the mod. And we got 4 guests here that I'm going to introduce, or they're going to introduce themselves, excuse me. And yeah, and then we'll hop into it. We'll go over the topics and have ourselves a lovely conversation. Maybe we'll like learn a thing or something. So yeah, why don't you introduce yourself, Todd from Half Baked Takes?
Well, first off, I want to say thank you, Be Weird, for having me on, and appreciate all the other panelists for coming on, talking with us, or talking with me. I'm Todd from Half Baked Takes. I'm your friendly neighborhood enlightened centrist. Basically, I just talk politics and sports. Don't really stream too much, but do post these panels and my one-on-one discussions up on my YouTube channel. So you can find me on YouTube, Half Baked Takes, and on Twitter at Half Baked Takes. Just search that. I think it's my actual name, but whatever. And make sure to sub and donate to Be Weird if you're watching tonight.
Yeah, subs. Yo, okay, great. Thanks so much, Todd. From Half Baked Takes. Why don't you follow it up, Rheadiant?
All right, everybody. Hello. My name is Rhea. On Twitch, I go by Rheadiant. Kind of thought it was a fun little pun, but I'm just here tonight to express my opinions on these wonderful topics. I'm happy to be here with all my fellow panelists. Thank you very much, Be Weird, for the invite. I'm excited to get into it.
Poggers, nice, awesome. Cool, yeah, HalfWhiteFullBlack. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
My name is HalfWhiteFullBlack, or J-Rob, whatever is easier for you to say. I am a musician, a poet, a community organizer, Twitch streamer, fake bouncer, prankster, and trickster. I do all of those things, and I try to do them well. Recently, more and more getting engaged on social political commentary on online spaces, and going to be dropping my first video essay soon. So I'm becoming one of those guys.
Actually.
And yeah, that's me.
Yo, nice. Thanks so much, Half-White. I didn't know you're doing video essays already. Oh no. Oh geez.
Yeah.
Getting into the discourse. Paradigm Shift. Why don't you tell us what you're all about, man?
Sorry. Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, Marquise Paradigm, also known as The Paradigm Shift. You can find me at twitch.tv/the_paradigm_shift. Please let Twitch know to give me back my username. I hate the underscores. I talk about politics. I talk about games, art, poetry. We're currently entering the end or the mid-season finale of season 2. And if you have no idea what we're talking about when I talk about seasons, you should come and join me and figure out what the hell is going on. But for those of you who don't like to watch or have your favorite streamers already and don't want to watch on Twitch and sit there and watch me grow from the bottom, you can find all of my stuff that I usually like to clip and upload at youtube.com/c/the paradigm shift. No underscores. See, YouTube's nicer to me than Twitch. If you're interested in anything about real life takes or just figuring out what exactly is going on and how to manage, dealing with life, that's where we find it. Stay mad about your bad opinions. We shift paradigms here.
Yo, Paradigm, you got that down like so good. So good.
Right off the nap.
Right off the nap. Off the dome. I wouldn't say off the dome, though.
Every time I do an introduction, every single time I fuck something up, I start getting that's the only time I get nervous talking or doing anything on these fucking panels, man, is doing the intros.
Oh, you got to grind it. That's why you got to grind your.
I do this on Overwatch. I do this everywhere, so it's I'm used to it by now.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna go grab the question notes. I realize I've left them marooned in a chat, so I actually got to exit full screen and go grab them real quick. So, thanks for the follow. Okay, we're going back to this. Okay, so I'm just going to bring up these. I hope you guys weren't hearing that crazy nonsense. We've got our first question. So we're covering the two topics. It's the Freedom Convoy. The Freedom Convoy, everybody. Not the trucker protests. It's a silly name. It's the Freedom Convoy. And it took over, so many cities in Canada. Took over like Edmonton, Toronto a little bit, but most importantly, it took over Ottawa, the capital, for like several weeks, like almost 3 weeks. It resulted in the first ever use of the Emergencies Act to quell the protests. And the two main organizers, Pat King and Tamara Litch, were recently denied bail. That's right. A court was like, y'all, we can't let you have your freedom back. So I'm super curious what all of your takes are on this. Like, where do you land? What do you think were the main reasons or consequences for this? So that's like the first section. Like, what are your thoughts? Why did it happen? And then do you think it's going to spill over into America? And like, yay or nay? So yeah, floor is open. What do you think?
So this is so far out of my element in the realm of like, I'm an expert on this, which I appreciated y'all saying earlier. But what I feel is that this protest is a show of economic strength that I feel like even the truckers don't understand. I feel like the holdup on being able to sit there and like stop the transfer of goods, or like we were worrying about supply chains and we were worrying about all these other issues as it came forward to the summer 2020 and then 2021 and the coronavirus, and as the time there's issues here, there's issues there. I feel like this protest shows the power of value. Like, you're getting people having their assets frozen. You're getting people comparing the way the police in Canada are treating these protesters versus like everywhere else, and they're saying, "Oh, Trudeau's like a fascist, and he's da da da, and he's attaching himself to Putin, and this and that." And it's like, what I keep getting reminded is these people have millions, if not billions, of dollars of goods. I was gonna say of items, of goods, and they're able to hold that, and everybody's listening to them. Oh, let's hear their concerns. Oh, they vibe with us. They vibe with, what we're used to hearing about. They're vibing with, they don't like the mandates either. We should, and it's, I get it. I understand it, but I just want to see some consistency in people's thought processes, especially when it comes to understanding like people's concerns versus what they're actually doing. Because it just reminds me that like Black Lives Matter just said, yo, can police stop being aggressive? And police in return were like, okay, nope, let's be more aggressive. It's like, but with the truckers, it's oh man, they're hiding their badge numbers, and they're, I'm not seeing the same energy. I'm seeing respect. I'm seeing, let's hear them out. And it's like, you could just like, change your behavior and we wouldn't be that bad. Like,
wait, does everyone agree?
Sorry. No. Well, I mean, to an extent, I agree with you when it comes to like, if you want to talk about like what this protest means and like where it all, like what it stems back to, and how reasonable or how I'm trying to think of the word. Like, it has a good reason, like the reasoning behind it. That's not what I'm talking about.
Like justifiable?
I'm talking about, yeah, like we could talk about that, but like the response by the government, it seems to be where the differences lie. The way like bank accounts are being frozen, the Emergencies Act, it's only been invoked, I think, one time since like the 80s or late 80s or early 90s, and it was just at the beginning, that right when it got enacted is when they did it, the only other time in Canadian history, from my understanding. So it seems like they're taking unprecedented levels to like stop and reduce or like shut this protest down that they didn't exactly do to the BLM protest. And I would agree with you, Paradigm Shift. Yeah, you're going to have a lot more people that say, hey, like there's a justifiable reason for BLM to protest versus these fucking truckers. But at the end of the day, I think all of us would agree the right to protest is the right to protest.
Yeah,
as long as you're doing it peacefully, I don't care what the fuck you're talking about.
Then I guess it depends on how you define peaceful, because I don't know if shutting down the the nation's capital is necessarily peaceful from like an economic and even social standpoint. You had people who couldn't sleep, couldn't go to work, couldn't conduct business and such. So I don't know. To me, like kind of harping on both of your points is like this has just kind of shown me what tactics work in a protest. I think like that was interesting to me, and that's something I'm going to take and learn from going forward. I agree. Like, I think most of the reasons that they were protesting for, like, I didn't necessarily agree with, and we were kind of getting rid of a lot of the COVID measures that they're angry about anyway. So it's like this was on the way out. You guys could have just waited a bit more. You wouldn't have your bank accounts frozen and all that stuff. But yeah, to me, what I found most interesting is like, all right, well, maybe at the next, BLM protests, we'll see, cities literally getting shut down because people are parking their cars on main highways.
And real quick, I would say it's showing like ways to be extremely annoying and like effective in ways that don't involve like the burning of like buildings or the destruction of any property or and I'm not equating BLM to that. I'm just saying like as a general rule, we're just now finding out ways that we can be better activists and better protesters. And whether or not like you agree with them, I think you can look, if you're a reasonable and fucking sensible person, which I understand many people online are not, but I think all of us in here are, we can take that step back and go, okay, these dipshits found great ways to get the government to hear them.
And that's what I meant about the economic. I'm sorry to cut you off.
You're good.
That's what I meant about the economic capital. Is that, and that you brought up a good point, and I appreciate you. See, that's why I like you, because like I'm not attaching BLM to that, but like that was part of the thing, and that was supposed to be the big representation, like of how angry we were, and that didn't come across the aisle the proper way. Of course, yeah, I can agree with that. But these truckers have like actual goods, like they actually have something that everybody wants, and I feel like that amount of power is why they didn't get railed through. And it's like, okay, now that shows the disproportionate response to like a claim that doesn't have any economic weight and it's just about you caring about the community or the people who are complaining about it, versus having this big, like super organized, like if you don't listen to us, you're about to lose out on billions of dollars. It's like, oh, okay, y'all got it. Like, where do other protesters gain the ability to gain that capital to say, well, if we have this, you're gonna lose out on it unless you listen to us? That's where I sit on the idea with that. But I also don't like the idea of like the Emergencies Act and freezing bank accounts. Like people get sucked into things, and it's like, I understand you're trying to do it in a non-lethal way. That's Canada. Hey, maple syrup. But like, nah, go get the trucks moving. I need my medicine. I don't know what they have on those trucks.
It's worth mentioning, just to be super clear, that like most of the trucker unions came out against this. 90% of truckers were like A-okay doing the thing. But I haven't heard from Rhea in a bit. I'm just curious what your like baseline take was. Yeah.
I was actually just about to say exactly that. Just like looking at any of the data or the studies done on support levels for the protests or anything, I think the most recent thing I said that only like 25 to 29% of truckers themselves even supported the protests, and then for the Canadian population overall, it's even less.
Yeah.
And so I think that with so many of the people being vaccinated already and not really too against the mandates, it's just kind of crazy to me that such like a small minority of the population could create such like a ruckus, especially, again, not equating the two, but in comparison to BLM, I feel like BLM had more popular support throughout our nation than the trucker protests have ever. I think that like I don't have an actual number, but I would say that probably around half of the country was like in support of BLM, or if not of in their methods, then they're at least in support of like what they're fighting for. And in Canada, with 90% of people already vaccinated, I think that like they're fighting for something that's going to go away soon enough eventually.
Yeah.
And the only reason they suffered the consequences they did, like with the Emergencies Act, is because Trudeau like literally came out and just labeled them domestic terrorists. That was his reason to escalate so far. And that's a little bit questionable to me, because I don't know if these people were committing acts of terror against their nation, but they definitely were being a nuisance.
Well, one of the things I like was coming up in the conversation was we all kind of don't agree, let's say, with the ideas that the truckers brought to the freedom. Those are the ideas that were brought to the table. Just lots of mandate freedom, and freedom is infectious. But I think there's a huge discussion to be happened around the tactics, right? Like mentioning horns. And one thing that I really noticed was how militaristic everything was. Like, do you think that right-wing organizations can learn, like let's say, like there's like cross-pollination happening there? There's some right-wing tactics that could help left-wing. Go ahead, Todd.
I was gonna say you cannot deny the logistics of that fucking
Yes.
protest.
So good.
Off the fucking charts.
How?
Like 10,000 level IQ type shit. Big brain beyond belief. The fact that they were able to organize gasoline, food, water, fucking, they were getting people trucks to fucking add to the protest. We're talking about a fucking $120,000 item that they're just like, here you go. Do you want to make a fucking point to Trudeau? It's like, when you're talking about that level of coordination, I do think the left would be incredibly stupid to not look at that and go like, damn, how much better would our movements be progressing if we were handling the protesting end in a like the smartest and most logical and like most efficient manner possible. Because at the end of the day, I think the biggest like gripe with the BLM movement was never the actual discussion about policing and black individuals getting killed by the police. I don't think that's ever what anybody was ever bitching about. I think everybody was always bitching about, well, look at these BLM protests, they're burning shit down. Well, okay, yeah, I thought we all agreed that you shouldn't be burning shit down. And then you had the people on the left that were like, that then covered the ass of it and said like, oh no, it's justifiable. It's like, well, no, asshole, just say it's not justifiable, but the cause that they were fighting for is. So let's have a degree of separation here, that from the protests, from the protesters. But I think that kind of gets like mixed up in our like daily news, like how the daily news cycle works. Everything is going to get put out of context and done into the most like quickest 30-second clip they can.
And with especially with grassroots movements in America, and I've said this a lot, left-wing ideologies generally are very scattered. A lot of our movements are trying to follow along the same Martin Luther King path, gather a large group of people, go walk up to Washington. Hey, we got a voice. Listen to this person speak, make our da-da-da, and let's see where we can go from there. We're still trying to follow that, but in this age of information, there's a lot of like quick, easy, scattered parts that can be sprung up within 5 minutes. And it's like, okay, we're meeting here. And it's like, you don't have the proper representation. You don't have a leader. And you don't have that leadership, and you had somebody had said it earlier, but like it looked like war. It looked like, you got to understand what these people in power see your movement as. They can pick it apart. They can, and I don't want to go into the conspiracies, but like we've seen it before. Like, where were the bricks coming from? Where this, like, you have to act strategic. You need a general, and you need a forward vision. okay, I got 70 motherfuckers behind me that are willing to die. All right, now what we gonna do with that energy? Now where are we gonna put that into? All right, strategic. Okay, we're blocking off these 4 blocks, and this needs to happen here because this person is in charge of that. And if we annoy them, then that person's gonna get annoyed with the person on top that's not doing anything. Oh, now the chain has to listen to you whether or not you want them to or not. And I feel like a lot of left wing protests need that capital, but it's sad that like a lot of right wing protests get funded by a lot of outside money. And you could go. Yeah.
Two quick things. So one, like, look at the opportunity that like that Chaz Chop region. The government gave them room to breathe on that shit. If they could have done it effectively, they could have had a fucking like could have done something like truly innovative when it comes to like protesting. But they fucked it up because they didn't understand the logistics of the whole situation.
Was that the thing in Seattle?
The Seattle where they had like the unoccupied or they weren't letting police officers or like any emergency services in and stuff like that. It doesn't matter. But what I wanted to go back to is I was having an argument with Joe Lewis. I don't know if anybody knows of him. But me and him were on a panel, and the big fucking argument that me and him were having was the violent protest versus non-violent protest and like the effectiveness of this. And I don't think either one of us disagreed that like they kind of go hand in hand. You don't typically have a protest that is 100% peaceful or 100% violence. I think it's a lot of the times like what is the main driver of that protest. So if you see like some portions of like the Black Panther, like the newer Black Panther Party, or like the new neo-Nazi movements of America, you see these protests or these groups that are solely based on like we are coming to at some point commit violence. And if that's your whole thing, okay, then fine. I mean, nobody's going to ever take you seriously. But I don't think you can have a protest that's 100% peaceful. You're always going to have individual actors that kind of do whatever they want to do. So I don't think you can associate the two. But I do think you can make a point to always like have the heart of that protest be nonviolent or like express nonviolent sentiments, because you're going to keep the average person's like attention and let them hear. They're going to hear you out for longer if you're doing it in a nonviolent way. That's why we see like the most effective protests in history, the boycotts in India by Gandhi, the civil rights protests in America. I'm sorry, people try to tell me that they had violence at their core. No, they did not have violence at their core. The most effective leaders in the movement, I know it's cliche of a conservative to talk about Martin Luther King, but it's like that was the majority opinion of the civil rights movement, was we were going to get civil rights and we're going to do it in legal and like effective ways. We're going to have the world hear our story and not get bogged down in rioting or
Half-White,
whatever.
you mentioned about like you were kind of questioning the whole peaceful nature of the trucker convoy, like especially with like the court injunction stopping them from blaring their horns. Like, yeah, what's your read on how peaceful it was?
Well, I guess it's really just depends on how you. I definitely, coming from a bit of bias. My partner, her boyfriend, has a restaurant in Ottawa, and he
Oh,
was really stressed and pissed off about it. So I think like I'm, regurgitating a bit of that.
that's cool.
But it definitely was disruptive, and I think depending on who you're talking to, they're going to have a different interpretation of what that means and how peaceful that may or may not be. But I think also like when reflecting about like the movements in the past, like civil rights and Gandhi, one thing that's different from now until then is really the need for decentralized movements like we've seen recently is that when you have one leader, it's much easier to kill or silence that leader and stop the movement. So like
True.
I don't know if like having centralized movements really is going to be possible or the way going forward. But I think the responsibility that we didn't see with like with the truckers or the Freedom Convoy is like When you have too big of an umbrella and you allow everyone in, no matter who, then you're going to, have problems like being labeled a white supremacist or a Nazi movement. Like, even though there was, you know, I didn't agree with what they were doing, but it was a small majority. I'm not going to say like the entire Freedom Convoy was Nazi or whatever, but like I think if you're going to have a decentralized movement, you should be like, all right, well, here's what we stand for and here's what we don't. And if you don't fall within that umbrella, then you're not with us and you can't ride with us.
Would you agree though that a lot of people on the left were saying like, hey, look at this Nazi flag, look at these Confederate flags, this is a Nazi and Confederate. I saw that a lot personally. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm
I
just
think
It's the easy
I think
W.
it happens with every decentralized movement. Like I've seen, people on the right try to discredit BLM in the same ways. So it's going to happen, and that's why you really got to be proactive about it. You have to think about that happening before it does, and you got to be like, all right, here's our core tenets, here's what we're going there for, and here's who we want with this. And if you have, the problem was like I think most of the organizers didn't really do enough to build people's confidence and them not aligning with that. And also I think there were a few of the organizers from the Freedom Convoy that were directly affiliated with like white supremacist narratives. So
Well, one of the main differences I see in between like old civil rights movements of the past and now is social media. It's a massive influence. It completely changes how people organize. Rhea, do you have any like thoughts on that? Like
should
on
be more
the impact of
effective though with social media, right?
well, you might get. Rhea, what do you think?
That one, Rhea. Yeah.
So, like, there were definitely some members of the convoys who ended up bringing like Confederate Nazi flags and just like extremist symbolisms and stuff to the things. Again, it's strange because that is like a vocal minority of the vocal minority of the Canadian population.
True.
And to see that such like a small group of people can kind of infect the movement um, is kind of crazy. I wanted to kind of pose a question to you guys. Since this started in Canada, I think that Canada has a little bit of a better reputation for their police force's handling of certain events. So, do you guys think that if this had started in the U.S. instead, that it would have grown into something more like violent or something like that? Because
Oh, good question.
personally, I think if people had done this in the U.S., they probably would have had like a much more harsher response by the government or stuff. And it has sparked some copycat movements. I know that that was one of the questions that you had said, but there are numerous, like a couple different trucker groups organizing right now to go across the nation, starting from California to end in DC. And I think that the Pentagon has issued the National Guard to be prepared to meet them there whenever they arrive in DC.
Yeah, I'm
So-
gonna kill myself. I'm pissed. They're putting the goddamn gates up. Putting the goddamn gates up. They're gonna be fucking.
Don't you
traffic.
believe in freedom?
I'm gonna have to take the goddamn metro every fucking time. I'm pissed.
Sounds like you hate freedom.
Yeah, I do hate. No, listen, and that's the thing.
Got him good.
Yeah, clip it and ship it.
Clip it
boys.
and ship it.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's go.
No, the problem is like, again, I can disagree with your protest and also have to deal with the fact that you're protesting. Like, I'm sorry, I have enough principles to go, oh shit, like I don't like that. Oh, but it's like a value. I'm gonna have to, like, I see so many people on the right that were bitching about the BLM shit. Like they will like word for word, like blocking traffic. Like you can go back and find a bunch of right wingers that bitched about protesters blocking traffic.
True.
It's like, okay, are you bitching about all of these truckers literally block the sole thing they're doing is blocking traffic? No, and that's my problem is like if you can't just take like an idea or like something that's not not physical, like if you are only tribal is how I'll put it. If you're only based on like tribal instinct, just I don't know what we can do with you at this point. I think we should probably just ship you off to the Arctic or somewhere nice and cold.
Yeah, I mean, I expect it from like mainstream media, no matter what it may be, because they have to sell a certain narrative. But I guess like for micro media, like we do, it is a bit more disappointing. But I also get it because I think like while mainstream media, it's like, yeah, they're paid to say certain things and have a certain opinion, and CNN is the left wing and Fox is the right wing. I think like I am beginning to see that kind of trickle down into Twitch and YouTube as well, because you're paid, people subscribe to you because they like the way you think, and if the second you start going against that, and maybe like, all right, I'm a leftist, but like, well, for me, for example, I'm a leftist, but I did not think the Emergency Act should have been enacted, even though this was a right-wing protest. Like, I think like it sets a pretty scary and harmful standard that I could easily see being used against us in the future. But I've seen a lot of pushback from other leftists having that opinion. So you kind of get trapped in having to think and say a certain thing if you value the paycheck you're getting from streaming, from the content you're making, because your fans or the people who pay you can easily start paying somebody else.
Don't you think it's sad? Oh, my bad, Paragon.
Yes,
Go.
okay. So I wanted to say to not only answer the question, but just to address the general flow of the conversation. When we talk about the old civil rights movement, there's a lot of people who believe that it was very forthcoming to be this very upstanding, challenge to authority. Or I should say, appeal to authority. It's an old phrase. But we have to remember that civil disobedience was the main point of it, and a lot of that was considered, especially to the police, to be illegal, even if it wasn't illegal. Like, they had dogs sicked on them, they had the hoses, like you've seen the pictures, and that was just straight up just a response to what they felt was like, why are we, I'm gonna say it because I'm here and might as well say it. What are these Negroes doing in my goddamn coffee shop? Like, like honestly, like, and like that's the truth. My dad lived through it. Like, I can't. I have pictures on the wall. Like, my bigger gripe is that what we end up, while we talk about this, we end up equalizing the ability to protest with its standing as far as how people will listen to that protest. And the biggest problem that we have in the United States, I drive right to the question. I love that I kept my mind on that. We have to look at, and you can look at the data for this, the response of police to right-wing and left-wing protests, and the culture that surrounds for these types of protests. The reason why BLM was so splintered is because everybody was afraid that the police was just going to, go get Aggie. And guess what? They got Aggie. As opposed to like right-wing protests, especially in America, where I think the police only responded, I believe, as what I'm looking at, only 4% had any type of violent interaction between the police and right-wing protesters, while as 91% of BLM protests had some sort of violent interaction with the police.
Todd's freaking.
Paradigm. Come on, man. You would
Stats.
agree with me that left-wing protests are typically going to have a little bit more animosity towards police than right-wing protests, right? I mean, we see when a lot of left wing protests are happening, they are literally protesting the police. You don't see these same like gripes from right wingers, right? You don't see the same issues being presented. So I'm not saying it's perfect, and I will agree with you if that's the real disparity. And I don't have the stats in front of me, but if that's if it's fucking 4% versus, what'd you say, 91?
Yeah,
I mean, I could be fucking right, hitting the nail on the head, but there would still be a lot of room for fucking error there, right? So.
So matter of fact, just to give it to you because I'm here for it.
He's got the numbers.
Yeah, it's just my chat is like, we want to make sure you're not stupid here. I appreciate them. Every 1 in 10 events were met by intervention by police. Authorities used force more than 51% of the time, leading to a break or a casualty rate of, there's where I read the 91%. So 91% of all protests that were met with police intervention turned violent. Only 33% for white ring demonstrations. And you just brought up a good point that I'm gonna, because there's the also thing here about right wing mobilization and how police responded to that.
Yeah, there
you
was
did
like
say
a
something.
bit
Go
of an
ahead.
issue there. Yeah, a bit of an issue with like the Ottawa chief slowly. He resigned because people felt he hadn't been strong enough with the protests, like severe enough on them. And a lot of lefties will say like, oh, the police glad hand with right-wing protesters, or they'll say they're too violent and we can't do police action, which was one of the things that was said by the police chief. So
Which is in this,
I
which is
think
in
that
this
might be
as
why
well.
there's two conversations
But
happening.
I
Yeah.
want to say I do agree with you. And when you said they're literally protesting the police, so the tensions rise there.
Yeah.
The issue is like, yeah, but now I feel like the onus is on the police to like not be the way that they are, as opposed to like like as you just said, glad handing the right wing protesters, because the protesters for right wingers generally are on the side of authority. So there's another layer there towards how easy it is for left-wing protesters to even gather as a group to demonstrate for something with that fear already being ladled within our society, let alone the actual responses that we saw from 2020. Because if we go back, we can go back again to the civil rights movement right there. Like, we freed the slaves and people were like, but like, I like it. Oh, let's have a civil war. Like, it's a consistent like reverberating cycle of, we're just gonna keep doing this until you stop complaining. And then when you stop complaining, well, what do you got to complain about? It's the silencing of that police, of that, what is the word, occupying force. That's voice of that occupying force changes the way left wingers can kind of coalesce together into one movement. Right wingers kind of just have the ability to say, we don't like this. I don't like this either. Let's go together. And I can't say that any other way, because that's just kind of how things happen, I guess.
Never underestimate the right wing's ability to fall the fucking line, dude. I'm sorry. Like,
The left falls in love and the right falls in line. Yeah.
I'm sorry. The
Bars.
only reason that you have seen Republican victories, I shouldn't say the only reason, a massive reason why the Republican Party has maintained the level of like power they have, despite a lot of like everything shifting left in the like society wise, is because the right tends to get their people to coalesce and come together on shit, whereas I see the left having so many ideological breaks that they start separating themselves off and being more prone to attack themselves from the left, whereas I don't see a lot of right wingers typically attacking right wingers from the right. Typically the right wingers will just like agree with each other, or they'll just like agree to disagree, but then immediately jump to what's the left doing wrong? What's the left doing wrong? And the Democratic Party just hasn't been doing that for a while, and it's probably their biggest flaw.
One of the things about the go ahead, Rhea.
I feel like right wingers are a little more like willing to give up their. Okay, I don't. This is gonna sound bad. I don't mean it in the way that it sounds. Like,
Go deep.
More willing to give up parts of their ideology to fit a bigger narrative. Like, I think that there are some things that right wingers like they care about, but not enough to stop it from them like fighting for something else, whereas leftists can get hung up on a lot of like tiny minutia in the conversation, just because there are so many different like proposed solutions and stuff from the leftist side. I feel like right wingers are better at coalescing behind one movement, because most of the time their values are like freedom,
Yeah, they're able
Truck,
to
yeah,
like,
brother.
set aside. They're able to set aside their moral beliefs for what they believe to be the greater good. just a Republican.
No, not moral.
But
I would hope they're not the moral beliefs. It's just like I don't think they'd be sacrificing their morals on any. I would hope not. I'm sure some do, but it's like you hold a general level of like consistency across like the ideological spectrum, like for right wingers and left wingers. So typically, I don't think they're ever gonna like cross over some morality line based on like their party or like. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they're ever gonna like.
Well, what I mean, I guess more specifically, is like they'll be able to forgive, someone like Trump for saying something racist because he's there. Like, oh, I could do without all the racist things he says, but I like him as a leader. Like that I don't think is really
I agree.
Yeah, like the Nick Fuentes thing.
Right wingers are willing to like put their energy behind somebody, even if not every single one of their views align. Whereas I feel like leftists are more picky about who they support.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I don't
yeah,
think
no,
that...
yeah, that's my
a good way to put it.
I would agree because it's like I feel like right wingers are willing to like, they'll eat it on a couple of things that they don't agree with to get the the person into office. Whereas like there were a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters in 2016 that ended up not voting for Hillary Clinton, and you could make an argument that like that played a part in her losing the seat or losing the election. So I don't know. You just don't see that typically happening on the right nearly as much. Not recently.
In theory, and I'm not here for the conspiracies, but in theory, Hillary did win.
Don't you?
You went there. Full send.
Theory
Full send.
All the way, technically, like
they're all like, you won, but we
get
cheated so
together.
much. How could you win?
I would love to talk about this on another day. So
All right, another time.
I don't know if anybody else is like real hung up on the actual, because we've kind of went from that protest
I was
gonna bring it back. I had a good question for y'all. I got a good question for y'all.
Hold on, I'd like to bring it back. Maybe
All right, you go. You go.
I'm gonna say the same thing.
No, I got an interesting question, but maybe.
I was gonna say, we talk about we were talking about the split, the idea of if it fell into the U.S. What type of response there would be. So I wanted to say, does anybody know what the truckers are protesting for? And if that protest has actual like valid concerns that could be answered or that could be solved in response to their protest. Because like you could say the truckers don't want to wear glasses anymore. Okay, well then you didn't have to block like the border in order to tell us you didn't want to wear glasses anymore. What is the weight of their protest? What do these people stand for?
That's the problem. Go ahead.
It's very general from what I've seen. It's like just
Freedom.
Vaccine mandates, but I'm like, y'all were living without masks for like much longer than us. Like, I don't know what you guys are really mad about at this point, but I think like I said this after January 6th. I think like the next time we see a big protest like this, I think people from both sides are gonna be a lot more scared, and a lot of people on both sides have a lot more guns now. Like since January 6th, I think gun purchases have went up both on the left and the right, and yeah, I'm all for I live in Canada, but I do support
red line up on that.
Man. Oh no!
But I think it's gonna be a lot scarier next time because people are mad, people are angry, people are scared, and I don't think that's a good mix for also being armed, especially when you're protesting the government. And I think if things do escalate and it gets to the point of DC, it's not going to be pretty, and it's going to like make January 6th look like a walk in the park.
Yeah, I think someone said it's March 5th in DC. One of the things I haven't seen like discussed. Sorry, this is like something I've been wanting to bring up for like a little bit.
First. Sorry, that's all I was saying. March 1st.
March 1st.
March 1st, excuse me. I thought, the one, right? Okay, this is the thing I haven't really got my head around. A lot of people talk about this in the language of protests, But who goes and protests to another person's city? That's the part I don't understand,
A
right?
lot
Like,
of people, right?
do they though?
BLM had a lot of like
People
a,
in
a
cities.
big part. A bit. No, I mean BLM. A lot of the effectiveness of BLM in 2020 was they were actually organizing and bringing people from different cities to like go and like build these other cities protests up, because like places like in Northwest Ohio, they had a couple BLM protests that I think they came in from Detroit and Chicago, and they brought it, and it ended up like really adding quite a bit to those protests. So I think there's
Interesting. Okay.
I think there's quite a bit to say about if you can organize it and get it going. You should probably bring as many people that agree with you there, right?
Yeah, just like community organizing. Is that everyone agree with that take?
Yeah, I don't think that, or like, I definitely accept that people are willing to travel to join protests. Most of the time, it's like people who don't live in cities at all, or like they live kind of like an hour away from a big city or something, and so they'll drive to the closest spot to join a larger demonstration, which I think that that's like to be expected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rittenhouse.
God
Lol.
damn it, Paradigm.
Lol.
Damn it,
Stop.
don't,
No.
dude, stop.
Yo,
Dude, I
that's
swear to God.
literally
Keep it cool.
hijacking. Literally hijacking. And it's a good segue. It's a great time to segue to the next topic, everybody. Oh, shit. We're talking about the other hot topic that is listed on the show notes for today that everyone has prepared for. Motherfucking war in Ukraine, everybody. War broke out between Russia and Ukraine, and nobody's really happy about it. So, smile gone. The world is turning its back on Russia, declaring it a pariah state in like all but name. And Putin has threatened nuclear escalation. Ukrainian President Zelensky has won the hearts and minds of people all around the world. That's my take. So yeah, I want to find out what the panel thinks about all this. Where's it all going? And same question as before. Will it spill over to the other neighboring countries, especially any part of NATO? And one thing I read about this that will help set the tone of this debate is someone mentioned, like, think about this in terms of months. What if this goes on? What if this becomes a protracted, long war? So there you go. Yeah, all yours.
It doesn't have to. It actually can't. Russia just simply just does not have the financial ability to pull off a long-term military operation. It just don't. They're running out of fuel and certain like military equipment already, and we're like 3 or 4 days in, and we're cutting them off from every single financial we're giving them every single financial sanction we can. It's only going to get harder for them to generate revenue for this. It's not just having the equipment; it's having the people to fucking operate that equipment. That's where people forget how expensive military operations are.
I think I saw that the costs were in excess of $20 billion a day, and to connect with what you just said, a large portion of their military right now is conscripts who did not want to be in this war. Like, Putin just drafted a bunch of 18-year-olds, and you can see videos everywhere of just like Russian soldiers just like sitting down talking to people. I saw a report earlier that one of the cities started, they had, I think, captured 200 Russian soldiers who essentially, I assume, just actually deserted, like they laid down their arms. And the Ukrainians were just letting them call their families to let them know that they were okay. And I think that's like the biggest thing, is that most of the Russian army probably doesn't even want this.
I think that all land should be returned to the Mongols. They were the true leaders of the
Hot takes only.
Land back, bitch. Land back.
The Mongol Empire needs to be restored. Give praise to Genghis Khan.
Genghis will never die. Yeah, I think it's really tough and hard to predict because I think everyone was like, he's probably not going to invade until he does some false flag bomb operation, and that didn't happen, and he still did. So to me, this kind of seems like someone getting more and more desperate, and I think a desperate Putin is a scary Putin.
Yes.
So I hear both of you, and yeah, logically speaking, this can't go on for much longer. But like, I don't know. At this point, when it comes to geopolitics, I'm not standing on the side of logic because logic would have prevented us from getting here in the first place.
I saw one really like
Good
scary. It wasn't like a report saying anything like was going to come of this, but just like the idea that Putin, being as like desperate as he is to have some kind of positive outcome from this, and as little as it seems that he cares about his actual people, they were worrying that he might try and drop a dirty bomb in Russia, like send a nuke of their own arsenal into Russia and use that as like the false flag attempt to escalate the situation even further. And I think that that's absolutely terrifying.
So really quick, I do want to, because like this is my fucking bread and butter. This is all I give a shit about is
Russian foreign policy?
No, just geopolitics. I don't.
That sounds like the worst number one interest to have, but I praise it for it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like one of those things that nobody else wants to do. So I'm here to, and it's not even. I'm not an expert by any means, but it's like nobody else is gonna have any idea what the fuck is going on. Somebody needs to like come and give some fucking some basic understanding to this shit. And I have heard the most dog shit fucking takes on like what we should be doing versus like what we like even can do. And also, I don't think anybody's thinking about the long-term effects of this. We are looking at a world now where with much more nuclear capability, probably for a lot more nations too. Reason being is the response by the West and NATO to leave Ukraine to defend itself, like when it comes to boots on the ground, leaving it to its fucking own and just saying, okay, you take on Russia. This would not have happened if Ukraine had nuclear capabilities. Countries don't invade countries with nuclear capabilities. It has never happened. It will not happen until you find out a way to destroy nukes, like incoming nukes. As long as mutually assured destruction is a thing, you will not have a country that has nuclear weapons have their sovereignty threatened in that way.
So do you think it was a good or a bad decision that they gave up their nukes to Russia
Yes, we are going to look back on 1994, the Budapest Memorandum. We are going to look back on that as the biggest fuck up in history. We expected.
Okay, but Cliff Notes only.
No. All it was Ukraine said we'll give up our 1,900 nuclear warheads. That's a fucking lot of nukes, dude. I don't know. That would be the third most in the world now. Ukraine had that in '94. They gave up all of that nuclear capability for like basically a couple economic things. They had to like pay for the uranium, and then it was going to cost a lot of money to like break the program down. We said, okay, we'll pay for all that, and we expect protection that our borders will not be fucked with. And Russia agreed to it, the UK agreed to it, we agreed to it, and I think somebody else agreed to it. That was on paper. Like, we had a fucking agreement, and now that it's proven that even we won't live up to what we said we'd do, which, I mean, you could make an argument that we didn't say we'd give them like troops, but there's a good fucking argument to say that we are not doing nearly enough and not fulfilling our promises that we made in '94. And that was the last time that massive of a denuclearization happened, it's never going to happen again. Why would any small country that's not a part of NATO give up their nukes?
True.
Why? You have the possibility of getting invaded.
I don't think that Biden is willing to enter into another ground conflict after he's gotten out of Afghanistan during this same term. I just don't see any practical, like, him making any type of, like, command to the armed forces to enter Ukraine. It's very, like, scary. I think there would have probably been some sort of more intense response by us had Putin not literally said, like, on the first day, if anybody interferes, you will suffer consequences you have never seen in your history.
Oh, but I'm the bad guy when I say Aaron Yeager did nothing wrong. All right, like, come on.
Bro, with the hot takes.
But I'm wrong.
How cool
Like,
is your head right now?
You got a literal real life demon like in control
Bro.
of like all this. But I'm wrong when I'm like, oh, but Aaron was like I'm not gonna spoil it for people. But
Are we like
I'm
all
wrong,
weebs? All of us? That's shameful shit.
So it's almost like countries can't be relied on to hold up their treaties for longer than it takes for the ink to dry. I do remember the annexation of Crimea, and I pretty much know that all of the statements that were made were like, "Hey, we didn't break the memorandum. We just we said we're not going to attack them with nukes." I feel like when we did this, we made a huge miscalculation on the idea that the world would not change, and if we were going to try demilitarization or denuclearization of a nation, there should have been something put in place to avoid further aggression between what we were trying to keep calm. But again, as half white, full black said, if we were working on logic, then we wouldn't be in this position in the first place. So,
Best line.
like it's to me, based on what I'm seeing, and again, I know my foreign policy, but like I focus more on black issues in America. It feels to me as though we're entering the stage in aggression where we really let the chips fall to other actors, and we have to insert ourselves because we were the ones that set the premise up that this wouldn't happen. Like, we really failed in making sure that there would not be an escalation of conflict, and we should have done more after the annexation of Crimea to protect that region, because as you're probably about to ask, or what was the second part of this, if it spills out any further than this, then I get it. I maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like we're entering another, not the same person, not the final solution era of that situation, but we're entering the Poland argument again. And like, should the United States or any military have responded when Hitler took over Poland? Like, I feel like we're right there, because once you get that, and like nobody stops you, or there's nothing, I can only sanction you, I can only hurt your people, I can only okay, maybe I could hey yo, what y'all doing over there? Oh, y'all chilling? Copy, we over there in 5 seconds. Like, that's where my worry is, but again, I'm not an expert in that, so I'm not going to sit here and say that's exactly what's going to happen. It's just a fear that I have that any power oligarch that gets, or any dictator that gets control of a country in this day and age is just going to launch straight forward. But I know Todd probably has more information, because I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, it's just basic appeasement, right? Like, you don't have to say Putin is Hitler to say that this has this smells and looks a lot like fucking. Wait, oh no, my dog.
It was just one. They're good.
Hopefully, yeah, but it's a fucking wiener dog, dude. It's bound to change. Okay. No, you can say that Putin isn't Hitler, but also understand that this is just appeasement in what the results of appeasing authoritarian dictators, what those consequences are. Like, you don't even have to look that far back. 2014, the man broke the Budapest memorandum and invaded Crimea. So he took Crimea. The West didn't respond. Like, we put some basic stuff out there, and we, tried to say that we were upset about it. But in reality, people forgot that happened fucking 2 weeks after Crimea was taken. and the reason why that mission was so effective for Putin was they came in and fucking it all got like they just took the area and then boom, it's ours now, and nobody did anything about it. Now like they're getting like pushback as they take the entirety of Ukraine. Honestly, if Putin would have just stopped at taking the Donbass and the one that starts with an L, yeah, if he would have just
Luhansk.
stopped
Luhansk.
there and he wouldn't have fucking gone full bore and sent troops in from north, east, south, and west, then I think they probably would have just let him have it.
Well, what do you?
Sadly, I think
Yeah,
they would have just
yeah.
said, "Fuck it, here you go, you can have it."
I don't think you're wrong, and that's why I'm not trying to predict anything with any confidence, because he just seems like a man hell bent on a warpath, and like nothing is going to stop him. If he manages, and he doesn't seem like he's having the best time doing it, but if he manages to take Kiev and the Ukraine in its entirety, I doubt he'll stop there.
How do we? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, let's go ahead.
How do we all feel about Ukraine joining NATO?
I mean,
if they want to, let them in. If they want it, if it's a democratically elected government.
I think part of the reason that Russia sort of did sent the little green men to take over Crimea was because any nation can't be join the NATO if they're like in conflict. I think that was kind of like a delay tactic that Russia used, if I remember correctly. And one of the, like, I think we all kind of agree that NATO wants to stay out of it. America wants to stay out of it because they don't want to risk like a direct war. But one of the things I've been paying attention to is the escalation, right? Like you mentioned that SWIFT, like Russia's getting kicked out of SWIFT, like the international interbank system. That's massive for European nations. And brought up in the chat was like how, and at least something I know from my own reading of security blogs, are all the 0-day exploits that Russia has over American infrastructure, over dams, over power grids, yada, yada, yada. So what do you guys think about like the escalation around the edges? You know, the cyber warfare, the information warfare, all these things. Like that's kind of where my head's at.
I feel like I swear, I'm Mr. Funny here. It feels like I'm repeating the joke from Dave Chappelle when he did the skit on Black Bush. That area is perfectly right for regime change. But if I could be honest with you, tried to kill my father, man. Tried to kill my father, man. I swear to God, we coming to see y'all. Like
Jesus.
The aggression. It's like I understand. Anybody can see this is not going the way Putin wanted. He wanted a clean, just straight up. I'm like not even scorched earth, but just like I'm coming in there. It's to me, it's the power of this man. It's the power that we've kind of ignored. We talk about Russia's influence in foreign elections. We talk about the bot farms. We talk about crypto mining. It's like that man is spiraling that country downwards, and he's either going to face a revolt of his own people, which is already starting to happen. We're seeing protests across Russia. I feel like it's going to get to a point where it's going to trigger a response from other people, especially if Ukraine does decide, all right, because even Finland's like, hey, NATO's not a bad idea right now.
And Sweden, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah,
Sweden
Switzerland non-neutral now.
Right, like
what the fuck?
I feel like the response, and I hate it because you landed it so perfectly, and I'm the one who's supposed to have the lines. But if we were working on logic, I feel like everyone should just turn against Putin. But I understand that you can't just do that. Like,
I don't know. I read this as like the trap, just like Putin walked into the trap that had been set up, except like he's trying to weasel his way around.
We're actually doing shit this time, though. Like these are having like the financial sanctions that we're implementing on them are having real effect because we have a consolidated effort by like almost every nation in the world. You have the fucking Taliban coming out and saying like, "Hey, can we peacefully negotiate this?"
Amazing.
It's so clear that like nobody is nobody is backing Russia. And I think Putin thought either the West wasn't going to respond at all. And if they do respond and put like financial restraints on us, we can go and turn to China. We can turn to somebody that has like the ability to like financially back us. And fucking Xi Jinping said, hey, you're fucking our money up over here. We don't like it. Bring it to an end. So it's like, I think Putin played his hand and he fucked up, because we're talking about a country with the economy the size of fucking Texas, so smaller than Texas. So you're gonna run out of money real fucking quick unless you can come up with new ways of generating revenue.
And
they
Texas can't
literally-
even afford a power grid in winter, so that's not much of an economy.
Yeah, it's literally the same GDP as Florida. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
Russia's so big, though. What are they doing wrong?
So it was crazy to me on even like the first day that the invasion started, the Russian stock market lost half.
Yeah, you saw that,
The
eh?
ruble, yeah, the fucking ruble.
Woo!
The value of the ruble dropped by 50%.
Ka-chunk! Ka-chunk! Yeah. Well, I'm waiting for the input from China. China's the third person in the room, right? We know
They
where
said-
Russia is.
No, they said bring it to a close.
Yeah,
They
they
said you're
did
fucking
make
our
it
money up.
You think that's the
wanna
take?
deal with this shit?
They're just like
The only
the spice
person
is
that
not
came to their
flowing.
aid was India. India came along and they're doing like a rupee exchange, because like all international business is done in dollars. So once we cut them off from like our financial bank, our banks, they were going to have to reach out to a different currency so they could do an exchange. The only country that offered them an exchange was India. Other than like
their money's worth
the Soviet bloc.
because their money is worth like Robux at this point. Like,
Yeah, that was a weird stat. That's fucked up.
like actually though, Robux was more expensive than Russia's main.
I hate. What are we going through, everybody? What's happening?
Well, the China statement, or to me, it's a bit of a non-statement, to be honest, because like saying this isn't good for our economy doesn't necessarily say that we're backing the Western, the Western repercussions, or that they're backing, because they could be saying this is bad for our economy. You guys have to stop sanctioning Russia, or this is bad for our economy and Russia, you should stop invading. Like, to me, it can still go either way until we get a more, I guess, like firm stance from China.
Yeah, kind of
Or
like.
am I wrong about that completely?
Well, I take
No.
Todd. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, no, you're right. I mean, I don't think Russia expected so many of the people that they had like a real good like financial like hold on, like places like Germany. Like Germany was getting like an enormous amount of their natural gas and oil from Russia. So as soon as Germany was even like, well, fuck it, dude, like we're gonna cut the what was that, Nord Stream 2, and
Yeah.
we're gonna stop taking in a lot of like your exports. And basically even Germany is saying now they're gonna do 2% of their GDP on military funding. Like Putin fucked up, dude. He changed the entire game. Everybody is going to be more focused on building up their militaries now. And
Well, you know how he fucked up? He invaded Russia in winter.
Ukraine.
Jokes.
I was gonna say that, like, I feel like, am I thinking of an old book? Maybe I'm thinking of Artemis Fowl, but I could have sworn somebody made the joke like, don't invade Russia in the winter. Like, where's that from?
That's a thing. That's Napoleon.
That's just history.
That's just
dude.
history. Yeah, Napoleon fucked up. Hitler fucked up. Like, who else fucked up?
Dude, the ground is literally just like, from my understanding, is just like frozen like mud.
Tundra.
So as soon as it thaws out at all, you're fucked. So in like, yeah, you don't invade Russia in the winter. You don't invade Russia during the muddy season, because it fucks up all your troop movement, all your fucking all your like heavy armor and all that shit becomes stuff that would typically go hundreds of miles a day is getting cut down to like 50 miles a day.
Yeah. There's a picture of a tank stuck in mud that I saw just the other day. That was all blown to bits.
And there's also like the clips of them stranded on the highway out of fuel.
Do you think Putin thought it was going to be an Afghanistan situation? Like like when we went into Afghanistan, Bush thought we were going to be welcomed as like liberators by these people. That fucking did not happen. We obviously had like a long standing insurgency. Even if fucking Putin gets his way, even if Putin takes down the Zelensky government and installs some fucking puppet regime, you don't think there's going to be a massive like rebellion that's going on amongst the Ukrainian populace? The entire world's back in that shit, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and plus they already got all the refugees out. It's just a bunch of 18 to 16-year-old men living in that country right now. You think any of the women and children are coming back if a puppet regime gets installed? Hell no. And the world, thank God, is accepting these refugees. America needs to do fucking more, but Japan donated like 200 million, has taken some people, and then Poland's taken a fuckload. And
anyone brave enough to take on the discussion of refugee responses from European nations? The contrast here. There's been some buzz in the news about like the contrast of how European nations have accepted refugees compared to like Syria and Lebanon, Jordan.
I mean, people of African descent can't even get out of Ukraine without.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like yo, like I. It's so funny you mentioned that because I had woken up this morning and my friend was like, I'm hearing all this stuff about like black people not being able to like be on the trains and stuff, and I'm like, all right, you're probably in the mix of like a bunch of propaganda. Like I'm seeing a lot of misinformation. Let me go check that out. And when I turned Twitter on, the first thing that was there was this long ass thread of like, trains, like any exit, and I mean any. I thought I was being hyperbolic when I said this, when I say any, but really any method of travel outside, like they're not letting Africans, anybody with dark skin, and I really mean anybody. Like the Americans, they're not letting Americans go leave either. Like,
no, I'm confused. Like, are they men there?
Men, women, children, all.
Like just a little black kid is. It's harder for them to get out.
Yeah, like.
Yeah. But there's gotta be like a state issued reason for that. There's no way that they're just denying these across the board for no reason. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just curious. I want to know what the fucking like what their reasoning is behind it, because there has to be something.
So from the videos that I'm seeing, like again, obviously I don't know enough about this. I don't want to spout that out to say it is like a done deal. But what I'm seeing is that it's not like Ukrainian officials are the ones stopping them from like getting on the trains or whatever. It's like the Ukrainians themselves are barring people from like literally getting on the stairs to get there, and it's only like Africans.
So it's just like a race, like it's a. Like
go ahead.
Society racism. It's not like the government.
It's not the government.
It's the racists. It's the racists.
That's a really big difference, because I thought you were saying like EU countries were like going, listen,
like a policy.
I see one drop of fucking Nigerian blood in there. Nah, dude, you can get the fuck out. Hey,
wouldn't be the first time.
Wouldn't be the first.
I made a one drop rule reference for a reason.
Yeah.
Listen, I hope you guys understand. Like, I disagree with you guys on like a ton, but I hope I can at least be a voice from the right of you guys that you like. Doesn't come off as like a dumbass. That's always like my goal.
I would just want to mention, I didn't actually mention anyone's political affiliations, and I was just a bit worried that there's a definite imbalance just because I come from the left. And yeah, I very much appreciate your voice, Todd. Like, it's important that there's like, across the aisle talking happening. You know what I mean?
And like I said before, you're not an idiot. Like I've said that to you directly. Like I genuinely. Even if we were like going to blows and we had our manufactured content, like I could at least talk to you. Like I don't feel like I have to like, yo, you can't be this fucking dumb.
You literally can't make it on this show unless I said based at least once to you talking at some point.
it just I'm sorry, and the reason I just fucking I can't find myself like agreeing with right wingers. Like anytime I watch these panels or I see like Twitch politics, anything that has like a right winger on it, it's always the most poorly constructed argument or way to get to our arguments. Like they never have they may have like pro Second Amendment leanings, but then they have like the worst prescriptions for why they think it's a good thing. And the reason I like talking to people on the left is I fucking think so much of the shit you guys say is stupid, but at least it's like coherent and it has like I can track it back to something. Yeah.
Well,
so
one of the
I don't
things
know.
that
I do appreciate it.
I've really struggled to swallow, honestly, with the Ukraine thing is like, I think Hassan was making this point, bless his heart, about how right-wing forces kind of are required. Like they're often the ones who will have a bit more understanding and involvement with violence, with just the logistics of violence. They know your guns, know your troop formations, all the very basics of war. And like if you're in a military, you're gonna be like okay with law and order, all these things. And I think that's one aspect of the conversation that's super interesting. Like as Ukraine tries to build its nation, it will like what happens to that part of its politics that it's relying on so heavily right now. Because you can't be soft. You can't be soft as a Ukrainian right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about the actual like political demographics of the Ukrainian citizens. Like I wonder where they sit like on the aisle, because
they went through a
it's-
revolution, like 60-40.
Yeah, it's just
It's a Soviet bloc nation, so I would bet there's like a maybe it may not be like the majority opinion, but there'll probably always be like a real like far left aspect to the entire old Soviet bloc, I think.
God, I just forgot what I was gonna say as it was coming out of my mouth.
Happens. Streamer brain. And that's, you know, and to not wrap the conversation, but like to really put it in perspective, is I feel like when we talk about these things, we have to also remember that it is a developing situation. You know, all of our takes can all, like tomorrow, Putin could be like, all right, fuck it, I'm taking over Europe. Like, we just don't know. Like, my man could really have his colossal titans ready to go. It's just I'm gonna go do the thing.
The rumbling? Oh no. Oh no.
I feel like what we have to put in perspective is that this push by Putin to make these declarative statements, he's effectively saying, I want to be able to do what I want. I don't think that there's anything other than I am in control of this nation, and if y'all do this, if y'all join NATO, that's putting things a little bit too close to me. I'm not fucking with it. So instead of you doing that, I'm gonna do this. And there's really no diplomacy that you can reach here. I feel like we have to have a response that says, look, you're just gonna be isolated again. Like, I feel like, is that not what you want? To just be isolated again? Like, you know, why don't we take Russia and put it over there? Like, why don't we just do that? And again, I hate that you nailed it so perfectly, but like, if we were working on logic, this wouldn't be a thing that we didn't have a ready response to. I feel as though it's.
I could give it a logic. I could give it a logic if you want one.
Try.
So,
Go for it.
Adam Curtis, a British documentarian, laid out this argument about what Russia's been doing, what Putin been up to the past little while. And he mentioned this guy named Surkov, who comes from like the avant-garde theater. And the idea was to try to make politics like theater, like dream theater, like so full of a change of cast of characters that everyone knows it's artifice and no one exactly knows who's in power. And what this means is that Surkov would support like neo-Nazis, but he'd also support like environmentalists and sometimes people who were pro-Putin regime and sometimes people anti-regime. But then he'd tell everybody he was doing this. And it sort of like led to this new era where everyone's sort of not sure what Russia is up to. And to me, that logic just basically moved through all, like slipping through all the loopholes of society, of like how, you know, Ukraine can't join NATO because like, you know, there's rules that if you're in conflict you can't join, so I'll invade Crimea and then I'll get through that loophole, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that logic just came to an end, that eventually that Putin snapped, that Putin hit the limit of that type of warfare. I think it's called mixed warfare or like hybrid warfare is another term. So I'm wondering what you guys think about that. Like if it's
Hybrid warfare, yeah.
Hybrid warfare. Yeah. I feel like that strategy just came to an end. Like he hit his wall.
So I graduate from university in 3 months with a degree in cybersecurity.
Yeah, let's go.
So that is a really interesting topic whenever it comes to this.
To
One
Russia?
of my professors right now is an ex-NSA agent, and he has been expressing some wild views about how this is going to affect Russia in the future, considering like Russia right now is one of the like top cyber nations in the world, just because it's the easiest way for their people to kind of like have a presence on the global stage. And I think that if this ends and then Russia is kind of separated, that's going to be the most of the stuff that we see from Russia in the next probably decade is just like cyber efforts on other countries, because they won't have the political power to enact any other actions. And that's kind of weird.
It's oh, sorry, my bad. Sorry,
No,
my bad.
I'm done. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's kind of shocking they didn't use cyber warfare.
To begin with.
They probably
They have.
tried a ton, and they did hit a couple of things. But you would have thought that they would have made that like the bulk of the beginning of the operation, because they weren't even able to like kind of affect the power grid or any of like the logistical aspects of the cities of Ukraine. You would have thought that they would have made a greater effort to kind of like shut that stuff down before they made this move, because again, they don't have the money to shut. I'm sorry, they're not the United States. They are not going to be able to shock and awe and drop bombs until you can't fucking see. They can't afford it.
Well, one of the big questions was how Ukraine has maintained airspace. What the hell is happening?
Shit like that. That's fucking.
That blows
that
my
is
mind.
wild.
You know what it is?
That-
I'll tell you. I can tell you right now. They, them, army.
They, them, army, and
They,
their
them,
president
army.
is clearly the
True.
main character.
Oh,
Yes.
I saw a video of him. He was on Dancing with the Stars in like 2006, just crushing it.
Oh my god, I watched that
Most
this
main
morning.
character energy of all of us. I think.
This is
Extra
a great.
protagonist.
This is a perfect example of how propaganda, when used for good causes, can be so fucking effective. Zelensky is now looked at as like one of the world's like best fucking leaders, dude.
Yeah.
He went from the leader of a
I
a
had literally
developing
never-
country.
I don't think that I had ever heard his name before this. Which
Oh, I knew
You
about him
pr-
because
you
of the
probably-
Mueller stuff, right? He was
Yeah,
in the Mueller
exactly.
reports, and I'm like, oh, it's the dude, it's the comedian. And he was amazing because he was in a show called Servant of the Nation, Servant of the People, and he played the president. Like, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I knew him because Trump tried to strong arm him, and that was like
The
my
blackmail.
impression of him. Yeah.
Well,
And now he's
and-
a hero.
It's
And
weird.
not even just Zelensky, but did you guys like hear like there was like the Ghost to Kiev, which was a Ukrainian fighter pilot who was fucking shooting
I
down
think that's
every.
actually
The-
a meme.
it's
though.
ama-
they
yeah.
don't-
No,
they
I
don't
know,
know
but
if
like
it's real.
this is my point though. It's propaganda,
Mm.
right?
Right.
So
right.
it's like shit like that is what got so much of the rest of the world to be like, fuck yeah, go Ukraine, dude, go Ukraine, and that that sentiment builds and builds and builds, and that is the type of shit that's going to put enough pressure on Russia to end this shit, because this shit wasn't going to end just Ukraine fighting off Russia. It was going to have to be they hold off, hold them game, and fucking, you know, then they'll run out of money and then they got to go. That was the hope.
It's amazing to see the expert at hybrid warfare lose the battle over information. Incredible.
Yeah.
Because this just shows, and you know, I get the idea that, you know, we're Americans, we gotta take sides. We're Canadians, we're North Americans, we gotta take sides. You know, are you for this? Are you against this? Da, 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 da. It's this guy rushed this. This guy woke up one morning and was like, all right, we're doing this. Like, you do realize that, and I want to make this clear. Russia is not the bad person here, and Ukraine is not the bad person for responding. We are honestly looking at a situation where we have two nations getting into a skirmish, if not a small scale war. And a lot of these people don't support this. A lot of these people, this is not like these two hate each other on the values of which they stand next to each other on. It's really just world leaders doing what they always do, playing chess, using people's bodies as the fucking pawns to move there and advance their pieces over to the other side of the board. And I know that's a very simple, very, very simple dramatization or a overview of that. Yeah, there it is. I understand that, but at the same time, for me, when I get into like the idea of hybrid warfare, it's all these elements that you had at your place or you had at your disposal to really make your, like they're doing it now on Twitter. The abolish NATO trend. Like you can go back as far as you can see it's the Russian millbots. Literally, we're just gonna tweet it until it gets to trending. It's like you really are losing your hand here because you just look like an asshole. And I know like people are dying. I'm not going to make light of that, but like it's the guy and the Kremlin and the group of people saying, we need to do this because there's Nazis in Ukraine and like we need to get rid of them. Like, hey, my brother, I'm not saying you should roll up over here, but we got some Nazis over here that got grained to some ground. Like, let's make some political theater. I'm here, President. All right, President Putin, I'm ready. Like, I thought that was the whole thing. That was the joke. Like, Joe Biden's gonna be on the hand of Russia, and he's gonna get bought out by, you know, Russia owns us now, and China owns us now, and it's like, we the ones that gotta go over there to solve that issue. Like,
well, the big thing to see right now is Trump be pro Putin.
Yeah, God.
Listen really quick. I'm not going to say who it is, but I work in a congressional, a member of Congress's office, and I take calls from constituents. And he's a Republican, the number of constituents that identify themselves as like the most diehard Republicans, they called and said, why the fuck are we caring about this invasion in Ukraine when we have an invasion going on our southern border? And to have to sit there and bite my tongue and like, oh, thank you so much for that, Oakley. To sit there and bite my tongue when we're comparing situations like this, and like the right wing, it shows where their priorities are and like how they view
well, the Freedom Convoy was the previous segment.
Situations.
So
it's crazy to me that it seems like the entire Russian military has worse logistics than the Freedom Convoy. Like, what kind of situation do we have to end up in this world for that to be the truth?
Yeah, we.
It's the way we. And I always make this joke, like, if you're Argentinian, bro, you're fucking Mexican to these people. Like, you're white. You're white. Like, you're white. Like, we view immigrants as these, and I know this is, but no, I can rewound this back to the point. But we view all foreign entities as these black and white like entities. Like, we view people like the immigration is at an all-time low, and they're still saying they're flooding the border, and it's like, but this could affect the continents, and like y'all don't, and I hate to do this, and y'all don't care about like climate change and the fact that you can watch the ice caps melting in real time Like, I don't know, maybe we should, instead of demonizing other people, say, let's work on logic. How do we solve these issues right now? What do you want? What do you want? And you know, for me, my take on this, or my like, if I was a world leader, I'm not bringing, and I know how many people are gonna hate me for this. I'm not arguing with Putin. Yo, let's play a chess match. You lose, get out. Like, I'm not sending my boys to war over that. Like, over your little ambitions and your like, let's play a chat. Let's get into a boxing ring, you and me. 10 rounds, you kick my ass, then you can say whatever you want and do however you gotta move. But if I kick, like, show, and that's what I think the Zelensky nationalism and growth is coming from. Is like, yo, that man said, I'm one of the people. I'm going down there. I'm not leaving. I'm not dipping. If I die, I die for what I stand for, and that's not letting y'all do this. Like, where's that at for our culture? Where's the? I think even somebody asked Trump, like, would you do the same thing? And he's like, you don't know about bravery until you get put in the situation. And it's like, but then you was like, Biden was hiding in the bunker. You use military to push people out for a photo op. Like, you're not. I just want one line of consistency of thought for any of these topics. Just one line of consistency, and I never get it. I hate it, and I never get it.
Me too, Paradigm. Me too.
Well, it's been a lovely conversation. I think we came to a nice end to that conversation. I want to like land this plane that we're on. So why don't you guys all do your shout outs? You know, how can people reach you? How can people follow you on wherever you're at? You know, get updates and that stuff. Yeah. So why don't you go one by one? Rhea.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. You guys can find me at twitch.tv/Rheadiant. Rheadiant on, it's actually, I think it's Rheadiant IV on Twitter. Somebody stole my username. It's tragic. I'll probably start uploading to YouTube here soon, but not on that yet. I hope that everybody follows the rest of my panelists and be weird. Drop them some donos, some follows. Yeah. It was nice to be here.
Yeah, why don't you, thanks so much, Rhea. I mean, lovely to have you. Half-white, full black?
Yeah, I'm HalfWhiteFullBlack on Twitch TV, on YouTube, on Instagram and Twitter. I also make music under that name, and I have a band as well called Saint Xenon. If you're into alt pop with punk, rap, R&B, and pop vocalists, then hit that up and check it out. And yeah,
don't you got a track coming out soon?
It came out Friday. So,
Yo,
yeah.
Oh my God, sorry, I'm behind. I gotta catch up.
All good, man. Yeah, that's me.
All right, brilliant. Todd, half baked.
Thank you again, Be Weird. Thank you guys so much for talking with me. If you liked what I said, you can find me everywhere at Half Baked Takes, YouTube, and I guess go follow my Twitch, because one day I will fucking stream. I don't know when, but one day I'd like to have some followers when I start to do it. So thank you again, Be Weird. Thank you guys.
Yeah, bro. Paradigm?
Oh, I was waiting for you to say Paradigm. Sorry. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting me here. Oh, I'm getting tired already. Oh no.
That's why I'm landing it early.
Thank you for inviting me. I always appreciate it, because just a year ago I literally was a one viewer Andy and nobody knew who I was. It's nice to just, be in a room and say, hey, look, you were watching these people and now you're a part of it. Like, admit to yourself that you can do these things. Self-confidence is a huge thing I deal with, and I want to uplift everybody else with that. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you liked what you saw today, please do me a favor and follow me at twitch.tv/the_paradigm_shift. You already know what to do. Hit Twitch with the email. I need my username back. I hate the underscores. I also do gaming, poetry, art, pretty much anything that comes to mind. Chat and Twitch help me keep keep myself accountable, help me hold myself accountable for the things that I want to create. I actually have an album coming out as well for my poetry. It'll be out later this year, but I am dropping new songs every single week on Twitch and other places because I've held back content for so long because I am a perfectionist. If you like awkwardness, go grab your blunts, grab your drinks, come on over, visit us. But if you're one of those people who doesn't like to sit there and watch Twitch right when it's happening because you got work, schedule, kids, or, the house, or, you're getting laid and you don't want to sit there and be like, hey, babe, watch this Twitch stream. You can find me at youtube.com/c/the paradigm shift. I upload most of the good general takes I have, and we're going to start doing video essays very soon. So I hope you come and join me because I need the support in order to move out.
You hear that, everybody? Y'all got to go support Paradigm Shift, Rheadiant, Todd from Half Baked Takes. You got to go see HalfWhiteFullBlack, man. He just put a new album, new song. I'm Be Weird. I've been at this for a bit, and I'm actually the president of the Throw Poetry Collective in Montreal, and that's like really what I've been doing with most of my time. We got poetry slams coming up in Montreal for like 5 months. It's gonna be dope. We got some crazy features coming in, and I've been streaming on Twitch doing the morning, covering these exact issues, the Trucker Convoy and the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's kind of why I wanted some outside perspective to kind of, see where other people were thinking about this. And honestly, I couldn't have picked better people. Y'all were so chill and wonderful and lovely. Hey, did anyone raise their voice once in anger or frustration?
Yeah,
So.
I was about to say, he raised his hand.
I'm just loud. I'm just loud. You know what I mean? It's not anger.
But that's what I mean, right? Like there's excitement, there's energy, and then there's anger and frustration. Like, yo, I didn't get to talk, or there's like 9 people on the screen. You're all little thumbnails, can't see you at all. And like, I forgot what I was thinking because I had to wait, 40 minutes to say my spiel.
Oh my God.
It's the worst, right? You're just like holding your tongue, and then you bite through it. Oh, it's the worst.
Nah, somebody tried to come at me because like the day I ran into Destiny, it was like, yo, you had so many slam dunks and this guy just loves to hear himself talk. And it's like, bro, like 8 people talked before me. I have to go through all of that to figure. You should have a notepad or something. I don't know. Maybe just let me talk when I get like you're saying something. Like, let me respond. Like if we was in a room, let me respond. Like.
Well, that's it. I feel like I want to recreate that space of like people being in a room and chatting and like understanding from one another. So this is gonna be sporadic as issues come and go. So hopefully we'll be seeing you around. And yeah, thanks so much for coming.